available for everybody. I can show that link later on when we get to it, but and this will be kind of the session that I'm going to do at the PASS Community Summit. So again, in 2 weeks, I'll be at PASS, I'll be speaking on this. So this is very similar to that session that you would see there. So we'll talk about all the things related to that. So you're in speaking and community involvement for the introvert. This is by myself, Pat Wright. And basically, I've been working with databases now for about 20 years. I've been working in the community for about the same amount of time. Like I said, I started this Utah SQL Server group about 2005, 2006. I ran it for about 15 or 16 years, and then I passed it on and did some other things. I've done Utah Geek events and a lot of different community events. I like to say that my biggest accomplishment is failing 5 different data warehouses, because I believe that when you fail things, you actually learn the most about them when you actually fail. So that's how you learn the most about something, is not by success, but by failure. So I kind of call it out in there. I've done a lot of different photography in my time, a lot of different volunteering, and I've done a lot of database work on performance tuning, data warehouses, and just about everything else. If you need to connect with me for anything, my information is right there. I'll have the slide at the very end up as well so that you can see it there when we're asking questions. So it'll always be there. Um, if you have any questions during this session, feel free to either drop them in the chat. I have that right here so I can see it, or feel free to unmute and ask me a question directly. I love interactive sessions, so I would love it if you talk to me about what you do in your own ways as well. So please make this as interactive as possible. All right, so why should you be part of the community? And we have a couple college students in here right now. So this is very, very important to you, why this is so important to what you do. So I like to tell stories in my presentations, and the most important story I always tell is that when I really got started in community, and that was back at a past summit way back in 2004, I started talking to some of the people next to me in one of the sessions, and it just so happens those people ended up being, one of them ended up being the president of the past organization, one ended up being the program committee chair, and then I ended up managing volunteers and many other users groups. So we all got into volunteering together, and what it really changed about our career and what we did moving forward is that it changed our trajectory for what we were doing. We didn't have to worry so much about finding other jobs when we were out looking or when we got laid off or something else, because we had these networks to call upon. We had friends, we had people all over the country. People knew us from our work in volunteering. They knew us from being out in the community. They knew us all the time. And so we never had a huge problem trying to find that job or that role that we were looking for. We were always connected to the community to be part of that. And that's what really, really makes a difference. And I talk specifically to the college people on the call and stuff like that, is that you need to network with these meetups and these users groups now, because it gives you that chance and that opportunity to meet those other people that are going to hire you in the future. I used to tell people all the time at one of my conferences, whether it was Big Mountain Data, whether it was Code Camp, whether it was here in a meetup, is that your future employer could be sitting right next to you. It could be your next boss. It could be the next person that you work with. Jim just mentioned that I know Chad Crawford. I know Chad Crawford. I work with him directly right now. We're good friends. So it's that connection, it's that community that really makes it so in the future you can handle things like layoffs and getting hired and getting fired and all of those different things. Your community is what matters. So I love this saying from Simon Sinek: the people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. This is key to the community side of things. By helping the community, volunteering and being out there and being in the community, that makes all the difference in the world for you to get those jobs in the future and what you're doing. Now, why do I have these pictures against my in my slides here? Most of the pictures you'll see on my slides today are pictures that I took myself. My passion is photography and I love it. So I like to spend my time taking pictures and doing those things. Being in the community and doing this work allows me to do a lot of those great things. Yes, Scott, you had a question.
Oh, I just wanted to give another example. So I used to live up in the Seattle area, and I helped start the TDWI
Mhm.
group there,
Yep,
and
great group. Yep.
made a job move and started working for somebody else I met on the TDWI board. So
Yep.
yeah, participating in the community is really important.
Yes, it is. Okay, so that's why you should really be part of the community. I think we've established that it makes all the difference in the world. Knowing those people in the community is really going to drive what you do in the future. I just noticed one other's joined the call, so I'll pick on him in a minute. Don't worry. Um, how to overcome if you're an introvert. Now, this is the next big question I get. I get this all the time. Every single time someone asks me, they say, I can't get up and speak in front of people. I can't get out there and do that. I can't be you, Pat. I can't go do those things. I'm not an extroverted person. The truth is, I'm not an extroverted person either. I'm actually an introverted person. I love my time alone all the time. These pictures that I took, I loved being alone when I took those pictures. It was a wonderful time. The difference is that I found a way to pause my introvert when I needed to do that. And what I try to do is I try to pause my introvert at the right times so that I can get up and speak and present, because I tell myself that it's something that I can do to make my life better. By being out here, being in the community, volunteering and helping out, it means that I can get better in what I'm doing in my career. So that's why I can pause the introvert and do those sort of things. The way I've always done that is a simple saying of 20 seconds of courage. It takes 20 seconds of courage for you to change your life forever, is the saying and how it goes. Basically, basically it takes you 20 seconds to say, I'm going to push this submit button on this session and say, I'm going to present on extended events, or I'm going to present on log shipping, or I'm going to present on something. That 20 seconds of courage is all you need to actually push that button to do that work. Once you have that 20 seconds of courage, everything else after that, then you have to figure out. Then you've got some work to do, you got those pieces. But that first piece of work that you have to do is just that 20 seconds of courage. Now, hopefully, you'll also want to do something like, I want to present in the future, but I don't know what to present on. So people ask me that all the time. Come to us as other speakers, come to us as user group leaders, and we'll help you to find topics that are interested. You always speak about what you're passionate first. No matter what, the first presentation you ever do should be something that you're very passionate about, because it'll be easier for you to push to do the presentation, and it'll help you to learn about the topic that you're passionate about. So always start with your passions first more than anything else. The other key thing is a leader of a user group will commonly do this idea. They'll say, you'll say, well, I'm really thinking about doing this presentation. And they'll say, okay, you have October and it's currently September. So it's like, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for that. No, you have October. Let me put it in the list right now. Let me get you started right now. By putting those deadlines on people, it means that they have to do it and they think about it and they get into that situation even better. So it's one way to really get people involved in what you're doing. Okay, questions on courage, anything else? All right, so this is another one that I really, really love. This is a concept, and I'm going to talk about a book here in just a second that I really love that talks about this more than anything else. And if you really want a great book, we'll talk about it here in the next slide. But really what this is make a script in your head, be specific and be blunt. So one of the hardest things to do is pushing that button to say submit to a topic or submit to a volunteer or to submit to do these things. Or in your everyday life, maybe you don't want to get up and exercise every day. I don't. I have to tell myself every day that I need to get up and exercise. I have to tell myself every day that I want to get up and stretch and do those things. In that, what you're telling yourself, you need to have a script so that you can keep telling yourself that. A script that says, I have to get up and exercise, or else I won't be able to exercise in 5 years because I'll be dead. Now, that's very specific, that's very blunt. Maybe that's a little harsh for some people, but sometimes you do have to be harsh and blunt with yourself to make these things happen. So sometimes you have to say to yourself, I have to submit this presentation, I have to do these things because I really want to be better at my job. I want to make sure that I get a job in the future, and I want to be protected from layoffs in the future by doing this community work. So by doing these specific scripts and by doing these specific things, it'll really, really help you to guide you in what you're doing. Okay. Great story around this is my love of donuts. Donuts are the greatest thing in the world to me. I can't tell you how much I love donuts. Well, I'm trying to tell you how much I love donuts. Basically, though, when I drive around, I have to tell myself a script every time I pass a 7-Eleven, a Chevron, a gas station of any sort, because all I want to do is pull into that gas station and buy a donut. And I kid you not, I tell myself a script every single time I drive by a gas station. Don't have that donut because you need to exercise more and you need to make sure that you can hike when you're 65. That's one of my goals, is that I want to be able to hike when I'm 65. And I know that if I have too many donuts, I'm not going to hike when I'm 65. I don't always succeed at this. Okay. Keep in mind, you don't always succeed, but telling yourself that script over and over and over again is the best way to deal with these sort of things. So make those scripts for you, think about what they are, and try to make them for what you need them to be, whatever that might be. So again, we'll get to the book in just a second. This is one of the common things we get whenever you're new to the community and whenever you say to yourself, I'm brand new, I'm just learning about SQL Server 2022, I don't know anything about it, what do I have to offer? And I say to people all the time, I say, you have a perspective that I had 25 years ago or 20 years ago, whatever it may be, a perspective that I can't see anymore. You have a new set of eyes that I am not going to be able to see. I'm going to miss that entirely because I'm so far looking in some sort of future architecture or some other change that I'm never going to see it. What you have is the ability to show something in a perspective that nobody else does. So you always have something to offer. You always have a presentation, you always have a script, you always have an idea that is very well suited for the community, and you can always present it. The most important thing you need to do when you do that presentation or anything else is tell your story. Don't just come up here and show them facts. Don't say, I made the database run 90% faster and it looks great. And here's all the facts and here's all the numbers. Tell a story why it mattered to you. Tell a story why moving the database to 90% faster got you these different things in your position. It helped the company to do these things so much quicker. Make sure you tell a story. Stories are remembered and they're kept in people's minds, whereas facts and figures on side presentations are not necessarily done that. So if you have a drive to for any sort of topic, I guarantee you have something to offer. Okay, questions so far? Kind of going through quick, so I don't want to go too fast there. Okay, here's the big one about this book and what I was talking about here a lot. So let's say you are getting ready to do some sort of presentation. You're getting ready to join the community. You're getting ready to do a presentation at work. Let's say it's just a simple presentation at work. What are some of the steps you are going to do? You're going to start with why. Why is that important to other people? So let's say you're talking about performance tuning your SQL Server. Let's say you're talking about how do you analyze a stored procedure and find out all the places that you need to performance tune for it. That is important to developers and engineers because it makes the system run faster. If the system runs faster, 9 times out of 10, you're going to save the company money. So that's your why. That's starting with why. It's really easy to figure out, but you got to tell people in your presentation why this is important. I started with the why slide because I wanted you to know why this presentation is important to your career moving forward. So that's what you start with no matter what, is start with why. Now, have passion in everything you do, whether it's a presentation or anything else, have passion in everything you do. I put here, tell a story. If you look up David Phillips on YouTube, he is my favorite storyteller. He has a wonderful TED talk that talks all about how to tell a story and how to leave people hanging and stuff. I've still been trying to learn it. I'm still not the best at it, but by far, if you watch his presentations, you'll really enjoy them and you'll take something away from it. So we already talked about it, pausing the introverts. You have to tell to yourself, it's okay. I can stand up on stage, I can talk, I can present. Start small. Start with your local team that you're working with. You know, the 5 or 6 people that you work with, start with them. Do a presentation for them. Then maybe your engineering department. Then maybe the user group meeting. Then maybe a SQL Saturday. Then maybe the next thing. So you keep moving forward on those different pieces, but start small so that you're used to it and you get better at it. And willpower is not the answer. So this book, Change Anything, it was written actually in Utah. A bunch of the people here live in Utah. And this book really talks about how you can do steps to change your ideas. Now, most of the steps that are in this book, I've been talking about already. Have a script, willpower is not the answer, and focusing on your good habits and finding your crucial periods when you're worried about something coming up and changing them. But I really strongly suggest this book if you want to look into any of these things in depth. I think it's only 6.5 hours on Audible. It's a quick read. It's got a lot of really great points. I typically read this thing once or twice a year to try to remind myself of the things that I want to change about what I'm doing. It helps to make really, really good habits. And they talk in here that willpower is not the answer. People that just say, I'm just going to be strong. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to, like in my example of the donuts, I'm just going to drive by. I'm just going to drive by. I'm okay. Nope. I'll turn right into the gas station. I guarantee you, if I just say I'm going to be strong, I'm not going to think about it, that's not going to work. I have to have my script or else I will turn right into the gas station and I'll buy my donuts. Okay. So it's really, really important that you come up with these things that really help you to get better at what you're doing. Really important point here, life's a journey, enjoy it. I like to tell people all the time that, while you're doing this at work, everybody says work is hard and it's hell and it's all these things. And as DBAs, we're up all night doing all these things, but there's a lot of fun to be had too as well. I mean, just yesterday with my CTO, he gave me eye drops, eye drops that have Red Bull and mint in them, which is a horrible idea. Don't try them. There's some sort of taurine mint eye drops. Don't do them. But it was fun. It was a journey. I got him back by giving him some really strong mint gum, and that was fun. So those sort of fun moments you're going to remember. Even if you're not at work or something else, you're going to remember those things. So enjoy it while you can. Even if you have really bad days where you're trying to fix corrupted databases and you're trying to restore backups and you're trying to do all these things, you can still enjoy that life as well. There's a lot that you can do there. So, okay, questions on this one? Questions on book or anything else on the steps? I've got a quiet crowd and I'm going too fast, so I'm going
Hey,
to try.
Pat,
Yes.
the one thing I've noticed over the years, because I've known you for over 20 years now, and I
Mhm.
remember when I think for the first month I've known you, you spoke less than what you've done so far today.
That's true. Totally true.
All the people I've known that made management, okay, as developers, all present. Those
Right.
that don't get promoted.
Right. Yes, that's true. So there's definitely, and maybe your goal is not management too, though. It may not be management, but we still have a need as a senior. When you are a senior engineer, you're a senior database engineer, anything like that, you have to train other people. I've said this for years and years. Every SQL Server DBA, every time an engineer comes to you and says, "Why is my query running slow?" and you have to explain it to that person, that's because you're teaching. You're teaching. It's just a smaller class size. That's it. You're still teaching them how it works. You're still talking to them about it. You're just having a conversation. You can do that again in a presentation format. You just have a bigger group of people. So knowing how to do it and understanding how to do it absolutely changes the trajectory of your career, and it'll make it so it's so much better. Okay, so now we're going to talk specifically about getting into specific things about putting together a presentation. Now, I kind of briefed over the community and why it's so important, and I'll talk more about the community in a minute. So please don't think I'm glazing over this or anything, but this is where we're going to talk about if you're getting a presentation ready, here are some of the key things you need to do. So this would be kind of like write down some of these key ideas for each of these abstracts and submissions sort of things. So if you're submitting into any event, any conference, anything else, always submit multiple sessions. Now, people say, well, wait a minute, I don't want to do 3 sessions. You don't have to do 3 sessions. You need to do one, but there's a chance someone else could submit the same thing. There's someone else that could submit something similar. So you always want to give the organizers a chance to see different pieces of work so they can choose which one is better. And whether that's a committee, whether that's the organizers, whether that's a voting system, whatever it may be, you should always submit more than one. And a lot of people will say, well, wait a minute, I only have one presentation prepared. How am I going to do more than one? Well, you can have one idea and concept and then one common presentation that you do. The idea and concept, as long as you're a couple months out, you'll have the time to build that presentation and put it together. They don't, most of the sessions, most of these conferences are not looking for a complete, well done presentation before then. As a matter of fact, I can't tell you how many conferences I've organized or been to where most of the speakers are finishing their presentation the night before. We are great procrastinators. We are very, very great procrastinators. So I rarely ever have a time when I go to an event that one of my speakers is not in the green room finishing their session. So Proofread, spell check. If you're not good at grammar, I'm terrible at it. I use Grammarly. I use tools. I use whatever I can to proofread and spell check it. I give it to my kid. He's a grammar Nazi. He loves it. It's his favorite thing to do. I hand it to him and I say, fix this. And he says, Dad, you're terrible. I don't know how you ever got to where you are. I'm like, just fix it, please. So every single time I get that, and that's what I do no matter what. Write for your audience. This one was a great one that Brent Ozar suggested so many years ago. It was a wonderful, wonderful blog post all about it, talking about it's really important to know your audience and to say who you want in the session. Because if you say who you want in the session, you've got a really good chance of getting the people there instead of people walking out saying, oh, I really wanted this talk to be on Power BI. I didn't want to hear about community. I wanted to hear about Power BI. You guys are all here because I was talking about community. So that's what's important about it. Short, clear descriptions. It's just a general idea. Make it a good summary. Again, proofread it. Make a good story there in your summary. When you're getting ready to get your presentation going and everything else, I mentioned this kind of before everybody got online, but I have a rule of 3. Try to present your topic 3 times. And when I say present, I do not mean looking down at your slides or looking down on your keyboard and say, okay, I'm going to say these words. I'm going to say these things. I mean, literally standing up, giving a presentation to an empty room or full room, whatever, 3 times. Say the words. It's very important when you do a presentation to actually say what you want to do. And it'll also figure out your timing. The first presentations I did, I would get slides ready. I was big on my slides. I was like, okay, I got all the slides ready. I got little notes taken. I wrote it down in my book. I have all these notes and I didn't say the words. And I ended up making very short presentations because I didn't realize to figure out my timings to make sure I'm right, I need to actually speak it and say it and talk to things. So that's very important when you're out there talking and speaking. So if you do it to an empty room, no problem. I have a great story about that. I was just started at a new company and the CEO came in really early and I did too. I was a big early person. This was 6 or 7 years ago. And I was just in the conference room, standing there in front of a projector, giving a presentation to nobody. Nobody else was in the conference room. I was just using it. I was going through my slides. I was talking, giving a presentation. And the CEO walks in and is like, Pat, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just practicing a presentation. I'm just getting ready. I have a presentation next week to give. And he's like, oh, well, that's cool. Okay, great. And he left. And it seemed really odd, but it's something that you just have to do. Present to an empty room. If you can present to family and friends, present to family and friends. There's a good chance you're going to put them to sleep if they're not database people, but at the same time, use whatever you can to do that. So present to an empty room, present to other people. And then again, I put the link down here. This bit.ly link takes you right to YouTube. I can share it here, or again, if you just look for David, if you just look for David on YouTube, you'll find the storytelling and you'll go from there. So any questions on prep, anything to get ready for? Yes, Wayne. You're on mute, Wayne. I can't hear you. Or something's wrong with your audio. There you go.
I got it. There's a couple of good video producing apps out there that are free, and you can always make a video of yourself and go over it and watch it again. Like what you said,
yeah, honestly, you can go to Google Meet right now. You can go to Google Meet, you can record it and save it. And you can use Google Meet for free right now, 100%. You just click new Meet and you say record and you can watch yourself do it that way too. Yes. Yeah, recording yourself and listening to it is another great method as well. I prefer for myself, I speak to an empty room. When I speak to an empty room, I speak. If I make a mistake, I try to note it in my book. But if I'm going for timing, if I'm going for a timing test, I keep going. I don't break my concentration of what I'm doing because I'm actually trying to figure out how long the session is going to be. And timing is very, very important. A lot of the first time presenters I run into are like, oh, I wanted to go way past my 45-minute time or my 60-minute time. That's because they had too much content and they didn't practice before. If you don't practice before, you realize, oh, I've got way too much content. I have to trim this down. Practicing means that you have that ability to figure out how long you're actually going to go, which is important. Because as organizers, we don't want you to go too long. We don't want you to go into the next session, but we also don't want you to be done in 15 minutes if it's a 60-minute session. So keep those things in mind when you're doing it. Okay, if you are in SQL Server and you're doing some sort of great database demo or something else, I cannot stress this word enough. Test. And I have great stories about this one. As being an organizer of an event, probably one of my favorite stories is the night before, one of my favorite presenters, he's a wonderful, wonderful presenter, great guy. He literally came to me at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, you ask yourself, why is an organizer up at 3 o'clock in the morning before their event? Well, because I was printing things, okay? So he writes me, and this was before Slack. I think we were on, gosh, we might have been on AIM or something. I don't know. He writes me and he says, my hard drive just died. The whole thing, his whole computer died. So I'm like, okay, do you got another one? You got another laptop? And he's like, no. And so he basically got another laptop, rebuilt his presentation, got it all ready, and he was presenting by 9 a.m. the next day and got it all working. Now, he went to sleep at like noon, I'm pretty sure, because he really did not sleep the night before. But when you have a demo or something, test it and be ready because anything can go wrong. The other one for that is our good friend Ben, who's usually in this group. I like to pick on him because, I was there. He did a demo and accidentally dropped his database into the middle of his demo. And he was demoing on how to bring a backup and how to restore it and everything else. Well, he unfortunately deleted his backup as well. That was waiting to be shown how to restore. So he did not have a backup. He did not have his database, and he couldn't do his restore demo. So this is where you have to test and practice those demos, and you're going to make mistakes. So make sure that you do your best to test and test and test. Always have a backup. What I mean by a backup is some sort of slides that you can show if your demo goes wrong. If your demo goes bad, always apologize once and then keep going. Don't make it the focus. Don't say I missed the demo, so forth and so on. Apologize once and keep going, and then work on slides or something else. Yes, Scott, you have a question.
Oh, I was going to say, I have a saying, follow the yellow brick road.
Uh-huh.
And what that means is when you're doing a demo, it's often tempting to like show a little extra or this is really cool.
Yep.
You should practice your demo over and over like you're talking about. And then when you're in your presentation, stick to the script, follow the yellow brick road. Don't get tempted to do something a little different because it'll absolutely break on you.
That's great. Great advice right there too. Absolutely. If you feel like you've done this presentation 20 times and you've done it, different places and everything else, and you feel good about it, great. But if you're not at that point, by all means, stick to what you have in your script and stay there and don't go offside it. If you do a demo for someone later on in the hallway, and we'll talk about the hallway track in a minute, if you do something in the hallway, that's great. That's wonderful, but it's not in front of everyone. So that's okay. So it's excellent advice, Scott. Thank you. The other piece I'll add to that is that if you do live code, like there are certain people that can type in a demo immediately and it'll work. One of the people that did that was the same guy that broke his laptop and stuff. He can live code. I've seen him do it many times. He's very good at it. I can't. I will copy and paste from scripts every single time because I'm sick of typing select, not select, but select or form instead of from. So if you don't want to live type, don't live type. Okay. Just copy and paste your script over, have the script already in a nice little line that you can run and go down through and test that system. You don't have to type. It doesn't show any better if you can type directly in a demo. Just some people have that ability. I'm not one of them. I do not do it. In a demo, I will stick right to my script and that's it. So, okay. So day of prep. This picture always gets a lot of grins and lots of faces. This is not my daily prep for when I get ready for a presentation. No, I do not drink all this alcohol. This picture was me getting ready for a party at my house. So I called it preparation picture. And I thought everybody would enjoy it if they saw a bunch of alcohol inside the picture. So what do you do when it comes to actually prepping for the presentation? First things first, confirm with your organizers. Make sure you know where you're going. Make sure your organizers know you are on site. If you are going to an event and you have not checked in saying that you are a speaker and you are there, your organizer is running around with a heart rate of like 180 and like a chicken with his head cut off. And I say that because I've done it 100 times. If my speakers don't tell me they're there, it worries me to no end because I'm not sure that they're going to show up. So make sure you confirm with your organizers, make sure you know where you're going. That's the verify room. Drink lots of water. So I have my water bottle right here. I will have it during the sessions a little bit. You'll notice what I've moved to now, I haven't updated the slide too much, is tea. One of the things I did on day of prep that I haven't really added on here, I'll add on here before the PASS Summit, is I really love a warm, hot tea. A hot tea right before I get on stage, usually about a half an hour before. I've found that it helps your throat be a lot more coated and feel a lot more relaxed. So a hot drink of some sort, not a hot sugary soda. Don't want to do any sugary sodas when you're on stage. No Gatorade, nothing like that. No Coke. Don't ever do that. You'll get really gummy. But a hot tea is really, really good right before a session because it helps your throat to be ready to go, and it soothes it basically and makes it ready to go. So that's what I've been drinking today, is a hot tea. My preference is just the cinnamon tea. It's nothing special. It's just an everyday cinnamon tea. I actually usually will take with me when I go to a presentation or an event. I'll take cinnamon with me and I can just put cinnamon and honey together and make a tea in case I don't have tea. So but by all means, water, absolutely. When you're on stage or anything, have a water bottle near you. Most of the events will give you a water bottle on stage or something. Make sure you have some water. Whenever someone asks a question, take a break, get a glass of water, and do that. Just no sugary drinks. If you need something like caffeine or Red Bull before, do it a little ways before. Something that gives you that jolt, say in an hour and a half before. This is something you have to figure out. If coffee is your thing, great. You can have a coffee right before, whatever works for you, but make sure that you can be ready for on stage and that you show up in a good way. So, excuse me. And day of, test your demos. This, again, I've seen more than one presenter walk in, and I had one presenter tested his demo at 9 a.m. and it was working. By 2 p.m. when he did his presentation, it didn't work. What happened? I don't know between that time frame, but it didn't work. Don't ever run Windows updates on day of preparation, on the day of the event. Don't ever run Windows updates. Same gentleman, different events. 9 o'clock in the morning, he got hit with Windows updates. Did all these Windows updates. A bunch of his demos broke because of it. Don't run Windows updates. Don't run Mac updates. Don't run any updates on the day of your presentation. Make sure you're ready to go with whatever your computer is supposed to do. If you have something like Docker and it's set inside Docker, great. That's wonderful, because then it's pretty much a closed system and you can control it. But if you don't have something like that, just make sure you don't run updates on your system. I don't put it in here as well, but I've ran into this a lot. Do not depend on, say, conference Wi-Fi, or verify conference Wi-Fi before. I have some people that want to use like a VPN to get to some company system, or they want to show something from the company or something else like that. That's not a good idea in a presentation, because there's a lot of Wi-Fi out there at convention centers that block VPN access. They block certain access. So if you need to depend on the internet for something, you might want to have a backup for your demo. Like you might want to have slides that say, this is how it works, or pre-recorded in a video and have it ready on your desktop where you can open it up and say, this is how it would do it if I had internet access. Also, you're at a technical conference with probably a couple hundred or maybe even 1,000 other individuals that are all using the internet. So your service is not going to be very good. So depending on something like internet on the day of a presentation is a really, really bad idea. So I don't suggest it typically. I know there's some demos that have to be done that way, but you should plan for it or ask your organizers what you need to do. Okay, questions on day of prep? Anything about that? Okay, so what communities are out there to talk to? What are people out there that you want to talk to and get involved with? And this is kind of speaking to the college students in here too. I can't stress this enough. Go out to Meetup, find the other groups out there. There's the SQL Server users group. I'm speaking specifically for Utah here, SQL Server. We have a big data group. There's a Utah data engineering group. There's a lot of different groups out there. Start attending. People always tell me in college, they're like, but wait, I got to get all these great grades. I got to do all this homework at night. How can I attend meetups? I tell them all the time, your professor is not going to hire you. Okay, they may help you get a job. They may know some people in the community, but they're not going to hire you. The people that are going to hire you are at this meetup, at the other meetup talking about it. Those are the people looking for to hire people. There will be recruiters there. There will be other companies hiring. There will be other people. Getting out in the community and getting out in those meetups and showing what you've done and talking to other people, that's what makes a difference in your career. That's how you get a job moving forward, not because you got an A in a class. Okay. I've done literally thousands of interviews and I have yet to ask a college student, what was your grade point average in that class? I honestly have never asked that question, but I've hired lots of college students that could show me, here's a project I worked on, how I did it, and what I did. And I also hired a lot of people that came from the meetups that said, I wanted to present, or I want to help, or I want to do these things because they have passion and drive to help other people. And in our line of work in databases, that's very, very important to have passion and drive to help other people. Because I don't know if anybody noticed, we don't sit around and just not talk to people all day. Database administrators and database people usually have to work with a lot of other people. So it's very important that you're out in the community and helping them. Meetups are really good. Go out to Meetup, search for SQL, and search in your area. You're going to find something. If you don't find something remote. There's a lot of them that are remote. You could talk to people remotely too. Technology focused groups, there's specific ones on SQL Server. There's the Slack community for SQL Server. There's different communities for, maybe you're into HP, somebody mentioned that, IBM, something like that. If it's a technology focused community, join it. Python has a huge presence here in Utah. Great language to learn, great community to talk to and work with. Slack has a lot of great communities out there. And then you can even find some events on Eventbrite too. Sometimes I've just searched on Eventbrite for technical events. There's all sorts of things I didn't even know were going on. So it's just another way to see other communities that were out there and things to look for. If you want to know too, this picture was taken at the past community summit. I want to say in 2016 or 2015. I'd have to go back to the archives and figure out where it was taken, but that's where I'll be in a couple weeks. I don't think it'll be that big though. Okay, so when you actually come to the time of presentation, when it's actually time to do presentation, when you're up there on the stage, there's a couple key things that I want everybody to know when you're up there. Number one, be ready and be comfortable, okay? So there's a good chance that maybe, you think, okay, I got to wear a suit or something. Most likely not. Most of the technical presentations are not that sort of thing. Maybe if you're in an academic conference or a certain conference that requires it, ask them about dress code. But otherwise, you should be in something comfortable, something professional, but something comfortable that you are feeling good up on stage. Okay. Make sure that you're okay with saying, I don't know. You are not going to know the answer to every question in the meeting, in the user group. It's just not going to happen. There's going to be people that are smarter than you. There's going to be people that know things that you do not, just because simply it's a big world out there. So make sure that you're okay with saying, I don't know. Whenever you say that though, the most important thing to do is follow up and say, let me look into that for you. Say, I don't know that right now. I don't have that answer. One, maybe somebody in the audience does know. They can help you out, no problem. Or two, you can also write down, say, can I get your email address or can see me afterwards? Write it down on a piece of paper, follow up with them later and say, I found the answer to your question. Here it is, and email it back to them. This method right there means that you now just made a friend and you made a person that now wants to talk to you even more. So that connection is huge. So it's very important that you can say, I don't know, but you can also follow up with something else. Okay. Repeat the question. This is a big for online, but it's even more important, I think, in person. When somebody asks you a question, state back what the question is. Make sure you understand it. Make sure everybody else in the room hears it, because a lot of the times the speaker will have a microphone on and they'll be able to hear, but somebody way across the room won't be able to hear. So repeating the question allows everyone to hear the question of what's going on. It's very, very important to do that. Some of the other key things on here, move around. I like to stay active. You've seen me now on screen here a little bit. I've been moving around. I do a method that a lot of theater actors do called blocking. What they do is they look down on the stage, and usually there's tape or something else, but I just make a invisible barrier around myself. So if I'm on stage or if I'm in front of a podium or something else, I only walk a few steps around that area. I don't have to focus on stepping on anything, falling off stage or anything else. I know that I can move in these few steps and I'll never hit anything. I know I'm safe. I know I'm clear. So I can do that the whole time. I like to do that to stay active and moving so that people are interacting with me. So it's important to be up and be in presence. Don't hide behind a keyboard. Don't hide behind a podium. Don't hide behind a computer screen. Make sure you're up and available for everybody to see when you do that. Okay. It's very important to engage your audience as much as possible. It's really hard on Zoom because nobody's got their camera on. So I'm talking to myself, but it's still something that you need to do in any presentation is to have presence. Right now, I've been standing this whole time. I have a standing desk, so I can easily stand and give this presentation. If I did this sitting, it would be a much different presentation. It wouldn't work well. So keep things moving. A lot of people will end up rabbit holing down one question. So there'll be a question and somebody will say, I've got this question and I've got these 93 parts to it. It's okay to say, thank you very much for your question. I really appreciate it. We need to keep the presentation moving so I can make time. I will gladly come and talk to you about that afterwards. Come and see me afterwards and we'll talk in the hall and we'll keep doing those things. So it's very important for you to control that narrative because the time in the session is yours to control, not anyone else's. So make sure you're talking about those things. Okay, any questions on giving the actual presentation? Anything I missed that anybody would like to add?
Hey, Pat, something I'd love to see you do is when you're doing a presentation, how to use the clicker and how to make that and how to move and use that clicker. That would be a great presentation because I'd attend that.
So I used to have that in this slide deck and maybe I'll add it back in, but I do tend to keep one of these. This is a little Logitech mouse pointer. You plug this into a USB and you can click right here. I like these because they have timers on them too. So I can set and know my timer and stuff like that. I have not been using these very much when I'm at home because I have an easy setup right here. I can see everything I'm doing. I can see my time right here. There's no problem. But when you're up on stage, these little things are wonderful. You just click back and forth and you can change your slides and everything else. So if you're doing a lot of presentations, I strongly suggest these little Logitech pointers. They're a great way to get around that. I don't know what the new ones are. This one's probably 12 years old. So I don't know how much the new ones are and stuff like that, but they're a great little device to help you with that. If you're doing mostly online presentations, you probably don't need it that much because you can just sit here on your keyboard and kind of just push the button directly like this. It's not really that hard. It's pretty easy. But if you're on stage, that thing's very, very helpful. And again, a lot of them have timers on them. I love the ones with timers. I'll set my time usually for about 45 minutes or so, and I'll know how close I am in my presentation. So excellent question. Thank you for that. Okay, so any other questions on presentation time? Did I forget anything? No. So this was just some things I put in there about online suggestions. If you're doing an online presentation, and this could be to your team, this could be across the country, this could be a big event, whatever it is, these are just general suggestions for online presentations. When you're sharing, try to only share the actual window. Like I am only sharing my slides right now. You're not seeing my entire screen or desktop because if I was to slide away to see something else, I don't want you to run to my email, or see something else. Those sort of things. So only share what you actually need to share. Now, if you're planning to do a demo, you've got a demo on one screen and something else on another screen, then you might want to share the full screen, but know what is next to each other and know how you're going to move between them. Because online or any of these ways of doing this, when you're sharing, you could be showing your entire desktop, and that might be something you don't want to show. So if you need someone to help take questions, that was a big thing in the past. I have 3 monitors. I can see my chat profile right here just fine. So it's not hard for me to take questions. If you have a big session and you have a lot of people in Zoom, have them write questions in the chat and have someone field those questions to you. It makes it a lot easier. I do suggest virtual backgrounds. If you're doing a presentation at an event, they usually have some sort of virtual background that they want you to use. That's great. Use their virtual background. For me, I use whatever my photos are. All of my virtual backgrounds are some photo that I have taken. You should have something though. Nobody really wants to see what's actually behind me, which is a big mess. So virtual backgrounds are your best friend when it comes to things like that. Okay. And one of my last and favorite slides. The most important slide. And yes, this is a friend. This is a part of enjoy your life. This was at a company. The company's called Allegiance. That's what that little flag is. It does not exist anymore. We used to have every day at 3:00, we would have Nerf battles. So every day at 3:00, the Imperial March from Star Wars would go off and everyone would get up and start shooting each other with Nerf. Obviously, we're in a room where everybody did this, so it was safe. We didn't do this out in the halls or anything else. Well, sometimes we did, but we didn't go into other departments. But so we started to get more and more creative on armor for these sort of things and got more and more creative because we're engineers and that's what we do. So yeah, it was a fun time. This slide though is all about putting your armor on. So once you hit that submit button and once you say, I'm going to present this topic, I'm going to do this thing, the first thing that you have to understand is that you're going to not please someone. There's going to be someone in the audience that gives you a bad review. It's going to happen sooner or later. No matter what, you're going to get a bad review. You have to be ready for that as a presenter. Hopefully, they give you what's known as constructive criticism. They say something like, Pat, I can't stand you moving around so much. Please stop doing that. Please stay still so I don't have to keep following you. That's a constructive thing. People didn't like me moving. But if it said, Pat, you're a terrible presenter and I hated the session, that doesn't help anything. Doesn't teach you anything. It just teaches you that they did not have a good session. You don't know why, you don't know what to fix, you don't know what to do. So hopefully you get the constructive criticism you need, something that says, please, focus on these aspects, or you really missed talking about these performance tuning things that I expected to see in this session. That's something you can use to better and improve your session in the future. If you can follow up with those attendees, great. If you can't, then just take that and make a better presentation the next time you do it. The most important thing you have to learn is that you have to learn from the mistakes that you made, or if somebody said, I preferred this, or I wanted to do this, you have to learn from those things because that's really what feedback is all about. You have to take that feedback and say to yourself, I'm going to get better because this was the feedback. You can't just say they were wrong, or you can't get upset about it. You have to put your armor on and you have to read this. I tell people all the time, the hardest part of putting on an event, the very hardest part, I've put on 30 plus events in my years. The hardest part is Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon, I spend my days reading my feedback from the event. I send out surveys and I get feedback from the event. It's not getting the event ready. It's not the day of the event and all the drama that goes with it and all those things else. It's the feedback, because that feedback to me tells me, did I put on a good event or not? It basically grades me as to how well I did. And if it's bad, I did a bad job. If it's good, I did a good job. But that's how I get better. And after so many years, I've learned to get better from this feedback. And I have lots of great feedback that has made it a much better event in the future. But the point is, that's really, really hard to read sometimes, is that feedback, to actually sit there on Sunday afternoon and be like, oh, yeah, we forgot all of that. We didn't do all of these things. This all went wrong. And they called us on it. And so then that's how we made a failure. But next year, hopefully we got better and we made it better. So it's very important to put your armor on to understand that. And you do need to take that constructive criticism and make a better session in the future. Okay. Last slide. Any questions? Any other last things? Oh, I was going to mention the hallway session. I will get a better slide on this in the future. I'll add this in there. The hallway session is really, really critical to any conference or anything that you attend. The hallway session means if you're chatting with somebody in between sessions, that's the hallway session. A lot of people are like, oh, I got to go attend this session. I got to go see this session. Sometimes it's more important to talk to someone else and miss an entire session, because that someone else could get you a future job, could be a future contract, could be some sort of future work that you do or some sort of project. So it's important that sometimes you don't worry so much about the schedule and what you're doing, but you focus on the hallway and meeting and connecting with other people. That's really where it's going to build your community in the future. So, okay, that is all I have for this presentation. I really appreciate everybody's time and everybody coming. You are welcome to go ahead and leave and drop off. I'm going to stop the recording here in a minute, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to hang around for a little bit longer too. Thank you very much. Now that was funny. Ben Miller shows up as soon as I stop. That was hilarious.
Thanks, Pat.